right now I'm going to be handing over to my colleague Alison Everett, who is going to introduce our panel speakers for today. Many thanks, Alison.
Thanks, Judy, and thanks, everybody. Just remember to, in the Q&A area, could you add any questions that you have for our panellists? But today we are first joined by Roger Mohr, who is the Director of the ASDEFCON Statement of Work Policy Area within the Capability Acquisition and Sustainment Group. So, Roger, can I ask you just to give us a quick brief about what your role is within CASG?
Okay, thanks for that. I work in the commercial division, which is part of Capability Acquisition and Sustainment Group within the Department of Defence. The area I'm in, we're responsible for procurement policy for the whole of Defence, and one of our principal aims is to standardise the way that Defence does business, such that when industry sees an approach to the market from Defence, they can say they've seen this before and it has the same look and feel as other tenders from within Defence.
And Roger, could you explain how tenders are handled and evaluated by Defence?
On the screen should be a flow chart just giving a generic outline of a tender evaluation process. Obviously, at the very beginning when we start, we need to design our tender process relevant for the particular procurement, because all procurements will vary. So we need to take into account, the nature of the procurement, the risk and the complexity. Ultimately, the aim we're trying to achieve is to ensure that the Commonwealth gains value for money, and the decision that's made at the end of the day needs to be publicly defensible and should withstand any challenges and be subject to any scrutiny. With any process we do, we've obviously got a range of rules we need to follow. The main rule that we actually follow is the complex procurement rules. If industry wants to have a look at those rules, they're all publicly available on the internet, and they can go and have a look at those at their pleasure. There's usually a range of other mandatory processes we have to follow as well, which also includes conditions of participation. So at the very top of the screen, people will see, once tenders are received, we go through a registration process. The first diamond there is basically initial screening process. This is where we basically check through conditions of participation to make sure minimum content and format requirements are met, to make sure the tender submittal is complete, make sure no pages are missing, and make sure any mandatory requirements or conditions of participation have been met. If those criteria are not met, then basically a tender will be set aside or shortlisted out at that time. The whole idea of the process is to ensure that only those competitive tenders are continuing, and we also need to abide by the Commonwealth Procurement Rule process. Once we get past that point, we go into a more detailed tender evaluation, where we're basically doing a compliance assessment, looking at the level of risk associated with the tender submittal against the tender evaluation criterion that will be visible for all the tenderers in the RFT pack. We're having a look at what the strengths and the weaknesses are in each tender submittal, and we're actually evaluating those against the tender evaluation criterion. Separately, as there will be a financial evaluation process, which is on the screen there as well, and the detailed evaluation and the financial evaluation all get brought together. Once we've done the detailed evaluation of the individual tenders, we then go through a comparative evaluation process, which is the last box on the screen there. Basically, what we're doing there is comparing, the different tenders, the strengths, weaknesses that's inherent in each of the tender bids. On the next slide, you'll actually see that we're now moved from the actual tender evaluation process having been completed to actually documenting the outcomes of the tender evaluation process. And for the major procurement activities that we do, we actually document the outcomes of that evaluation process in a thing called the SER, which is the Source Evaluation Report. This source evaluation report may include, a summary of the detailed evaluation, a comparative assessment of each of the tenders against the evaluation criteria. And we actually do a value for money assessment of each tender, take into account the costs, the benefits, the risks, and the various profiles we're trying to assess. Once the source evaluation report has been approved by management, we then basically go into the negotiation process. The outcome of the negotiation process, will be an agreed draft contract. We then basically go into an approval process to actually, get delegate approvals through our financial process, which is the second last diamond on the screen there, which is Section 23 commitment approval. Once that process has been completed and the finance has been achieved, we actually then go through the actual signature process for the contract and the champagne moment for the winning tenderer, and debriefing process for those tenders that were not successful. And the aim there is to basically ensure the unsuccessful tenderers have an understanding of what they need to do to improve their competitiveness for the next time. Thanks, Alison.
So another question for you, Roger, is most of the CDIC clients will be small to medium enterprises, and why is it valuable for these companies to understand how Defence prepares and evaluates the tenders?
Okay, thanks for that. Industry needs to have an understanding of how Defence prepares its tenders, and this is because industry may actually need to submit a tender to the Commonwealth in its own right, or they actually may be participating as part of a industry team where they're a subcontractor to a prime contractor, and that prime contractor needs to actually collate all the tender responses and input, so there's an aggregated single response, and actually provide that back to the Commonwealth. So either way, the Commonwealth's requirements will either be addressed solely by the first tier, which is a prime contractor, very rare. There always will be a supporting second tier network of subcontractors, where the prime contractors will need support to actually provide the response back to Defence. So Defence's requirements of the prime will get flowed down as relevant to the second tier levels, the subcontractor. So in order to help that process, if they understand how RFTs are structured, they'll be able to navigate their way through the evaluation process. Generically, when a tender is released, it has a few major components, the conditions of tender. It'll talk about what the evaluation criteria is. It talks about where the industry brief is, where the due dates are. It talks about the tender submittal requirements, and actually we'll also have a draft contract. All of these templates for the various contracting packages are available on the internet. All people need to do is to basically go onto the Defence website, and the best thing to do is just to search on the phrase "doing business with Defence" on their favourite search engine, and that will take them to the relevant page that has a lot of information for them.
So for an inexperienced small to medium enterprise wanting to tender to Defence, what would be your recommendations in regards to training or obtaining further expertise, advice or information? Okay,
thanks for that. As I said before, there's a lot of information that is available on Defence's external internet presence. Put doing business with Defence into your search engine, and you'll be able to actually learn a lot about how Defence actually interacts with industry. This is so you can actually educate yourself. If you need more professional support, there are a range of externally available through other commercial industry training courses that people can do. But you can also avail yourself the opportunity of training that actually Defence officers. At the moment, we have a range of training programs that are available for defence industry, which are shown on the screen there. Some of those are e-learning courses, which basically means it's self-paced. Some of the courses are designed as face-to-face, but are available in a virtual environment because of our COVID times at the moment. The courses could range from procurement, contracting, performance-based contracting courses, or ASDEFCON, which is our main contracting template courses. There's a range of courses that are available there. If industry has a specific interest in any of the courses, come into the email address that was on the screen there, and we'll provide information on the timing for the courses and where the courses are likely to be held in the future once you get back to face-to-face training, or those courses that are available through a virtual training environment.
So, Amanda, as Roger was talking about the Doing Business with Defence webpage, one of the links is to, of course, to the Centre for Defence Industry Capability. Amanda MacKinnell is one of our Defence Business Advisors. Amanda, can I ask you just give us a brief understanding of what the business advisors do within the CDIC?
Certainly. Thanks very much, Alison. As a Defence Business Advisor, I'm drawing upon my experience as a naval officer. I've worked for primes, I've worked in government, I've consulted back into CASG, and that wealth of experience coupled with professional knowledge and then the support of a team of 14 other Defence Business Advisors around the country allows me to support, as a member of the CDIC, all those businesses who come looking for help getting into the defence market, navigating and understanding what it is to be part of the defence environment, and also to help get their business into shape. I often think of it as getting prepared to run a marathon or a fun run. You need to know what to expect, what it's going to look like, and how to perform on the day. As a DBA, we can help you develop your quad charts, and this is one we've helped a business with down on the South Coast, being able to categorically express their capabilities, where they are a discriminator from another company, what do they bring as a unique capability in service to a prime or to defence, what their qualifications are, so at a glance you can see that they are already ISO rated or they've been certified to provide that service, and how to contact them. We then move forwards with providing additional information about ongoing grants. We'll take you through a series of analysis. And in this time with the COVID restrictions in place, businesses are finding it particularly hard to navigate even day-to-day operations, and your Defence Business Advisor can help you with that.
Great. So we've heard about the Industry Capability Network, but how do the primes use the ICN Gateway?
As Judy touched on, the ICN Gateway provides a really terrific push-pull networking function for the primes as well as businesses around Australia to see what opportunities are coming up, and this reflects the Defence Industry White Paper, what major programs are there for companies to mesh into with a prime supply chain. And this is a chance for a small business to represent themselves into a major program. And Judy gave examples of Navy's C5000. There's also the Future Patrol Boat. C129 was announced this week, which represents some major capabilities going into Navy for the next 20, 30 years in unmanned aerial systems. So being able to show how your niche capability or service can fit into one of these global supply chains to the prime so they can offer a stronger case to defence when they make their bid is just undescribably important to the prime, to you and to defence.
So finally, Amanda, just can we have a brief about how the CDIC's role or its unique service offering to those small to medium enterprises in this particular space?
So for a small to medium company trying to work out where do they fit into a defence program, by approaching a defence industry facilitator or a DBA and registering for services, We will take you through analysis and work out where a business needs to go in order to be able to be best placed to win work with the primes, with a equipment manufacturer or integrator, and then ultimately with defence. This will involve looking at where a company's defence knowledge is currently targeted, where they're advertising, what channels they're following, such as the Oz tender that Judy took us through, to be able to see what's coming up and prepare themselves for contacting a prime and doing that as early as possible, and then demonstrating how they can do things faster, cheaper, smarter, better, generally, than another company who's already established in their supply chain. The DBAs will take them through opportunities for improvement in continuous improvement practices such as Lean, Six Sigma, and we will be your partners for as long as you need and as long as you want.